Hey, you guys. Thank you guys for coming to this live or the replay. I am so excited, elated to have Miss Karen, 29-year raw vegan. Oh my gosh. And I'm going to share this book at the end as well. But she has
Not 29 years old, just 29 years raw vegan. No, you said it correctly. You said it correctly, but some people think so. I always have to be like raw vegan for 29 years.
Yes, I apologize. I hope
No,
I didn't
no, you
put.
said it correctly.
Oh, okay. I was hoping I didn't put that you was 29. But 29 years raw vegan, eating beautiful foods. I am so elated to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us here on my.
Thank you. Wonderful to be here with you, Vernice.
Thank you. I have some questions to ask you to dig into the wisdom that you have to share with us. Um, as a child, in this book here, it's full of so many great things. I haven't looked at it in a long time. My daughter's 12, so I bought it on, what, 2010.
Wow. That's
So
when it
that's how
came
long.
out in 2010.
Yes.
Yeah. That's my
I got to go.
13-year-old baby, my first book.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
So,
7 years, 7-year process writing that
oh,
book.
wow. It's a lot of great information. I was kind of browsing back through it. I'm like, wow, this is a lot of great information and testimonies and talking about homeschool, just full of so many. Y'all, please go on Amazon and any book where you can find books. I'm sure you probably be able to find it, right? But
It's
this
on
book,
Amazon. It's in some bookstores. It's been pretty well known in the vegan and raw food community, but it's for everybody. It's for
yes.
anybody and everybody because even if you start to just increase the amount of raw food in the diet,
Hmm.
and practice some of those attachment parenting principles, you'll see wonderful, wonderful improvements, progress in your whole family.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Wow.
Yeah. And for me, it was a process also.
Uh huh.
It was, I didn't know everything when I was writing the book. I did a lot of research, but I had already learned certain things. My mother had passed away before I had my children. So I didn't have the kind of support that I needed in raising my kids. And it was a learning process for me. I knew how important it would be to breastfeed because my father kept telling me to breastfeed my kids. But I had severe cystic acne and IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, for decades. And I did not realize that it was the food I was eating. And my second child also had asthma and chronic ear infections. And when we first of all went vegan and we gave up dairy,
Hmm.
that food that we think we're getting so much calcium from,
Yes.
I realized that that was the problem all those years with my cystic acne. My cystic acne cleared up in 3 months after over 25 years of severe cystic acne. It was all hormonally related. And the doctors told me that it was genetic and it had nothing to do with what I was eating, that I could continue to eat my favorite cheddar cheese and cheese doodles and it wouldn't make a difference. And it made a huge difference. My skin cleared up very quickly, and my son's asthma went away, his ear infections went away. All this happened in a matter of months.
Wow.
And my digestive issues gone.
And
So,
this, uh-huh.
all from food.
So you just cut out dairy or you cut out dairy and the meat products?
I had stopped eating meat when I was very young. My father and my grandmother, I mean, this is an interesting story. My grandmother back in 1921 had asthma and emphysema. Back in
Mhm.
1921, we didn't have genetically modified foods, we didn't have processed food.
Mhm.
But she was really sick and she was hospitalized. Her emphysema was very serious. The doctors told her she had a matter of months to live. And she was gifted while she was in the hospital with a little paperback book that a relative brought to her called The Mucusless Diet Healing System.
Wow.
It came out in 1918. It was all about plant foods and eating plants. I talk about it in my book, Creating Healthy Children.
Oh, okay.
And my grandmother got that book and it changed her life forever. It changed my father's life forever. He was only 4 years old. So it changed his life. And my grandmother made these changes, even though most people are not willing to change their diet and lifestyle, even when they're given a life, a life changing prognosis, like you're going to die. They're still not willing to change their diet. But my grandmother, she was concerned about my father, who was only 4 years old, because she didn't have any other relatives in the area. And she was really concerned not only about her life, but about him. So she was willing to do anything. And when she got that little paperback book, she read it. And that was the biggest change for her. She healed in a matter of months as well and went on to live another 50 years. So she surpassed all of their expectations, probably ended up living beyond their lives,
Wow.
their life potentials, being that they didn't make the changes that she did. She
Mhm.
went to a plant based diet, primarily raw food. Growing up, I remember my father and my grandmother just eating raw food during the day, fruits and veggies, and in the evening, salad and a little bit of steamed vegetables. That was their diet. And that was extremely unusual when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s.
Mhm.
Extremely unusual. So I thought they were weird. Um, and, even though I was sick all the time and on maintenance antibiotics as a child, I saw that they never went to medical doctors, that they didn't get sick like everybody else around us. And when I grew up in the 50s and the 60s, that's when all the processed food started.
Mhm.
So I was not a healthy child. And it developed later on into the cystic acne in my adolescence and then got worse in the teenage years and went on for decades, over 25 years, until I went to vegan in 1989. So I've been vegan now for going into my 34th year. And
Oh.
that was a huge positive change.
Mhm.
Um, and then I went raw vegan in 1994 because going vegan wasn't enough.
Mhm.
I ate a lot of processed food and just basically lived on pastas and breads and wasn't seeing the complete clearing of the cystic acne until I went to raw food in 1994. And I've stayed with it for 29 years, written books about it, creating healthy children through attachment parenting and raw foods. And then I wrote a recipe book, Raw Vegan Recipe Fund for Families, which has 115 easy recipes that even kids can recreate. They're so easy. And
Mhm.
then my third book, which came out about a year and a half ago, Autism, Heal and Prevent Autism, Natural Solutions That Work. And my first career before becoming a vegan and raw food health coach was as a speech and language pathologist. And so I worked for the last 20 years with children with autism.
Mhm.
And it wasn't enough, though, to do the speech therapy. When the families came to me and focused on nutrition,
Mhm.
then we saw some real improvements in autism symptoms.
Wow.
So that's why I wrote that book. And yeah, and so I'm still very, very passionate about this and continue to write and educate and just want people to know how important it is what you put in your body, what goes in your mouth, what goes on your skin. I
Mhm.
talk about how important those are. and we have to do this for ourselves, for our families. We are really being um, we are being talked into that we need animal food and that we need processed food.
Mhm.
And animal food has zero fiber for proper digestion.
Mhm.
None. We we end up with really, really poor digestion if we're just eating animal food and packaged stuff.
Mhm.
None of it has fiber. The only thing that has fiber is the plant foods, the whole plant foods.
Mhm. Yes, I agree because I experienced that not too long ago. Wow, that's amazing. Well, so what about, it's amazing to me because to have you here and to be sharing the beautiful stories and the things your experiences and other people experiences. So it's amazing to me. So you noticed the big difference with your acne and your digestion when you went vegan, but you really saw the big change with your raw vegan. So what was the typical things that you was eating back then to help heal you?
Great question, and it changed over the years, because back when I started, I mean, I already said when I was vegan, when I went vegan back in 1989, I was coming from a vegetarian diet that was based in dairy and eggs.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of dairy and eggs, pastas and breads, as a vegetarian since age 17.
Mm-hmm.
And then I transitioned to vegan in 1989. And I did become a vegetarian in 17, but that wasn't for health reasons. That was for ethical, moral reasons, because I didn't want to kill animals.
Mm-hmm.
My father and my grandmother, they took every little insect outside in a tissue, and they had respect for life.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my mother would kill insects, spiders, anything she saw with the fly swatter. And so I saw these two very different ways of interacting with creatures. And I wanted to save the animals. I loved animals, and I loved dogs and cats, but I also loved all animals. And when
Mm-hmm.
I heard what was happening to animals in slaughterhouses and on factory farms, and even on organic, so called humanely raised farms, they're not that much better. Those animals all end up in the slaughterhouse. Um,
Right.
when I learned that, I didn't want to have anything to do with it anymore. So I did go vegetarian relatively young, at age 17.
Wow.
And I stayed vegetarian all those years, not realizing the cruelty of the dairy industry. I
Mm-hmm.
thought, well, the animal's not killed, so it's okay to eat dairy. And dairy is very addictive. It's also loaded with salt, and it has casomorphines that affect the brain. And I could not think. I had brain fog for years. So the first thing in 1989, of course, that I gave up was the dairy. And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly I could think. I had mental clarity. I was like, wow, think. I could answer questions and really get into great conversations with people.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before I had this like really deep brain fog.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something I noticed right away, when I went to vegan in 1989, and also realized in giving up the dairy and the eggs that I was no longer taking anything from animals. Didn't need to use and abuse them in any way.
Mm-hmm.
When I was even taking in the dairy and the eggs, it was like taking in this negative karma that I realized later on. It just sat there, and it just, something wasn't right. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I went fully vegan almost 34 years ago, it was like this uplifting feeling of being connected with all creatures who share this planet with us.
Mm-hmm.
I felt a happiness that I have not felt in my life before.
Mm-hmm.
And that spurred me on to want to learn more about health for the first time, even though I had gotten that picture from my father and my grandmother for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know exactly what I wanted for myself, and I didn't care about my health. But then when I went to raw vegan in 1994 and went completely to whole, fresh, raw plant foods that were totally intact, no heat, I felt this great energy. Now, the
Mm-hmm.
thing was, is that you asked me, Bernice, what was I eating back then when I started?
Mm-hmm.
I was eating fruits, I was eating leafy greens, I was eating abundance of vegetables, I was eating nuts, seeds, and oils. And I didn't have the health that I wanted in terms of that I wasn't as energetic as I thought I would be. I was kind of sluggish. However, even though I didn't have the energy I thought I would have, my skin was clearing. Even though I was eating
Mm-hmm.
a lot of nuts, a lot of fat, my skin was clearing and it was completely clear in 3 months' time. It had started clearing when I went vegan and given up the dairy, but it
Mm-hmm.
completely cleared, and even the scarring went away when I went raw vegan in 1994. And so that really spoke to me big time. Like, I knew that if I could clear this hormonal cystic acne, that I could also clear my IBS, my digestive issues that I was having, and that also went away. I
Mm-hmm.
would go back and forth between constipation and diarrhea, and that all turned into really normal bowel movements daily, a lot of times 2, 3 times a day. However, over the years, I came to the realization that I needed to go to a lower fat raw vegan lifestyle because the nuts, I ate avocado. It wasn't the avocado though. That seemed to digest much easier. But and I still eat some nuts and seeds just in smaller quantity. I was eating way too much and there's no place in my diet for oil.
Mm-hmm.
Oil is highly processed and it's 100% fat. And I
Mm-hmm.
even found out later that there have been studies done on certain oils that people think are so healthy, like olive oil. There were
Mm-hmm.
studies done showing that there were numerous other oils in
Yeah.
many of the olive oils,
Mm-hmm.
like canola oil, which is an industrial solvent. You don't want canola oil in your body.
Right.
So when I gave up oil and reduced the fat in my diet, there came the energy. And
Wow.
I mean, I'm approaching 70 and I have unending energy,
Mm-hmm.
um, no medications, love my life, following all my passions. And that's what I want for everybody as people are growing in their years. We're all going to age, we're all going to die at some point, but we
Mm-hmm.
want the highest quality of life.
Yes.
And that's what this lower fat, raw vegan lifestyle is about. It's about quality of life.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I agree. Wow. That's beautiful. So what you cut out the nuts, and I remember in 2009 when I started doing raw vegan, I used to make the raw pies with all the nuts and all of that, back then. But I do see a big transition from eating all of those nuts, and how it used to be. So today, is your diet more primarily fruits, or do you have
Um,
a balance of both?
yes. So there is definitely a balance of fruit and leafy greens,
Mhm.
but I would say that my diet is fruit based.
Mhm.
So I have plentiful fruit and I also believe that we need the minerals of the leafy greens. I have worked with some people who came to me with a fruitarian, like mostly or all fruit diet, and we're having some challenges. And a lot of the time, the challenge was that there wasn't enough leafy greens, especially if we're living in a colder climate
Mhm.
and we're eating all fruit. There's not enough minerals in shipped fruit.
Right.
So we need to be eating some of those leafy greens to be getting the calcium, the iron, and other minerals
Mhm.
that, if you live in Costa Rica or you live in some kind of a tropical, subtropical climate, you might get by fine with your fruit trees.
Mhm.
And I do know some people who live in tropical climates and eat predominantly fruit and do fine. But I live in the New Jersey, New York area,
Mhm.
part there and part in Colorado, where my
Mhm.
family lives. And these are northern climates, and all the fruit is shipped. Now, in the summertime, certainly we get some local fruit, but the rest of the year, the fruit is shipped. So I eat a large volume of leafy greens as well. Initially, I didn't. There were periods of time after I transitioned away from the high fat where I thought, I just want to go to the fruit. Fruit is great for calories, glucose for energy. It's just truly electrical. I even have videos online of people who have turned around their symptoms of autism
Mhm. Wow.
with eating fruit. They call fruit electrical.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's so many benefits of eating fruit, but we also need to look at where we live, how we're getting our food. If your fruit is all local, you might be just fine. But if it's not, and most of it's shipped, you definitely want to get in those leafy greens. And I felt amazingly better when I increased the leafy greens significantly. I had every year I would get these really bad cold sores on the sides of my mouth
Mhm.
when the cold weather came, and I couldn't figure out what that was. And when I increase the leafy greens, especially in the wintertime, when I eat even more leafy greens, big green smoothies, and I will do some green juices and huge, huge salads. And getting those leafy greens in, like, it only took a couple weeks and those sores were gone and never came back. It was, to me,
Wow.
it was clearly a mineral deficiency.
Wow. Wow. That
Yeah.
is interesting. That is amazing. So, do you sprout wild rice? Because I know it's not necessarily raw, but do you sprout wild rice at all, or?
I mean, I have a couple of times
Mhm.
occasionally. I like to eat really super simple, so I don't always make the time for those kinds of things. Plus, I feel like digestively, it doesn't digest as well as something
Mhm.
like fruit and leafy greens. So,
Mhm.
predominantly, my diet is fruit, leafy greens, all kinds of other vegetables, because I do believe that our gut microbiome requires diversity to really build up really good, healthy, happy bacteria that's going to support your entire immune system.
Mhm.
And through having all of these wonderful vegetables, in addition to the fruits and the leafy greens, we're going to have more and more of those good bacteria because they do need variety. And
Mhm.
there's been a lot of research on that lately. There's even some doctors who talk about building up the good bacteria in the gut. So there's a number of things involved, and one of them is getting in variety, not eating just the same exact thing every single day. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, if you want some wild rice and to bloom your wild rice and eat it more on the raw side,
Mhm.
as long as you digest it well, that's okay. I like to add things like grated root vegetables,
Mhm.
even like some sweet potato, and I'll eat it raw. Like some people are like, "You're eating sweet potato raw?" But you can ground it down in a food processor. You can make noodles out of it with a spiruli. There's many different ways of eating it so that it digests well. I also really like the cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower and uh, and broccoli. I can't eat them whole, so I'll grind them down either into like a pate, or I like to make a tabbouleh or a cauliflower Spanish rice with the cauliflower. I love red cabbage, and the darker colors, the more brilliant colors are really important to get in. So, like instead of green cabbage, focusing more on red cabbage. So I like to get that in. Both the red and the golden beets, I'll grate those into a salad. I just want to have a lot of abundance, diversity, while still keeping my meals different. But I will rotate and use different greens and different vegetables every single day, and that makes it for great abundance. But there's also other lifestyle factors that add to building up the gut microbiome. It's food is one part, but also most people aren't getting outdoors enough today. People are like working really hard these days, and there's a lot more stress. Um, People work remotely or at jobs on computers and don't spend enough time outdoors, and especially in the woods, at the beach, in the mountains. Like, we need to get out. We need to hug trees and get connected to the earth. There's one medical doctor who talks a lot about this and how it actually benefits the gut microbiome. And like some people have said to me, Karen, like, how can that possibly benefit the gut? And it does, because we are taking in more than what we eat. Of course, that is really a big part of our health, is what goes in our mouth, but it's also what goes on our skin. So if we're using toxic skincare products or shampoos, or even nail polish that has ammonia and toluene in it, like that circulates in the bloodstream within 60 seconds
Wow.
and can cause a lot of toxicity and poor gut bacteria because of all those poisons coming in. So it's what you eat is a big piece, but what you put on your skin and what you breathe. So if you're outdoors in the woods, or at the beach, and you're connected, you're having your feet in the sand and in that water, you are you're breathing in the air, you're breathing in, and I know the air isn't as clean as it used to be. Yes, I do understand that, but I still believe it's better to be outdoors than indoors.
Yes.
So, and I do totally agree with the research that's being done on being in nature and grounding and earth activity and our energy, and related to our gut health. In terms of the gut health, the gut is also linked to the brain, and that's why, as somebody who, um, I've worked with many people with hormonal issues and gut issues, but I also work with people with brain issues, mood, um, hyperactivity. I just finished working with a woman for 2 months. She came to me because her son was diagnosed with hyperactivity and issues focusing, and he also had sleep issues. We worked together for these 2 months, focused on dietary changes, changing the products that they use in their home, um, getting them outdoors more, meal planning. Um, this is a different child now after 2 months, a
Wow.
totally different child. The hyperactivity is like literally gone. And
Wow.
even the teachers are remarking, what's going on? Why is he focusing now and wasn't focusing 2 months ago? And
Wow.
just interacting, and there's a sense of calmness. When you
Mhm.
change your diet, there's all these excitotoxins in processed food and stimulants in animal food. And when you go to fruit and whole plant foods, the body starts to calm down. We start to diminish and then eliminate brain fog. We can think more clearly. We can concentrate. We interact better. I've worked with families where kids with autism who played parallel with other kids, not interactively, suddenly, after 2 months of focusing on a different meal plan and lifestyle factors being changed, that they were suddenly playing interactively. And, many adults who have problems with mental clarity
Mhm.
and have things like depression and bipolar and anxiety, these start to turn around as well. I was working with a woman who was on Prozac and she wanted to get pregnant.
Mhm.
And she came to one of my classes, a 5-week program, and she was willing to give up the Prozac if she found that her anxiety could be calmed down. And over a short period of time, just a matter of a few months, she was off the Prozac
Wow.
and the anxiety was so diminished that
Wow.
she said it was quite amazing to her. And she got pregnant and had a healthy baby.
Wow.
So, when you see these things for years and years and years, and you see that when someone is motivated and accountable to change
Mhm.
their diet and their lifestyle, that they're going to have all these positive improvements and effects, you
Mhm.
know, it keeps me super passionate about this lifestyle.
Mhm. So, what is another case that stood out to you, that you work with, just changing the diet of a person?
I mean, there's so many of them, but I'll give you one example that it was just it was just incredible because this woman, and this was a local woman, who came to me. She found me on Instagram
Mhm.
and she had watched some of my videos. And she came to me. She said, I'm not doing anything of what you're doing. I eat meat 3 times a day. I love it. And I've been watching you for like 3 years now. And I watched and I watched, and I didn't think I needed anybody like you because you're doing something so differently than what I'm doing, the way you live. But now I'm hitting rock bottom.
Wow.
She said, I'm so inflamed. And this woman was the director of a preschool that was a pretty popular place with lots of clients, lots of children being dropped off every day. And she was supervising teachers there
Mhm.
and she couldn't function. She was taking off all these days from work. And when she came to me, her ankles were completely inflamed. I could see clearly why she couldn't walk. Um, she had wanted to lose like 50 pounds, 50, 60 pounds. She was just brain fog, sleep problems, had severe insomnia. So here she wasn't sleeping at night and she had to go to work the next day. And this was day after day after day of being exhausted at work.
Mhm.
And she said, I'm willing to start, but I can't go all the way. So I was like, that's okay. We're going to go in steps.
Mhm.
And so that's what we did. We went in steps. And I didn't take her to like a 100% raw diet. I didn't even take her to a vegetarian diet.
Oh, wow.
Over the 2 months that we worked together, I talked with her and we went back and forth. And every week we had 1 hour sessions. And in between, she had complete access to me. She would text me, she would email me. She had my full support because, or else she wasn't going to do anything.
Mhm.
But she stayed accountable to her goals that we set up for her, and she went whole foods, plant based, 5 days of the week.
Oh, wow.
5 days. That was huge.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from 3 times a day meat, like her diet was basically bacon and eggs in the morning, ham and cheese for lunch, steak and potatoes and yellow broccoli for dinner. Um,
Mm-hmm.
she had no understanding of the benefits of fruits and healthy vegetables, even if they are cooked. It's like the cooking process, because if you cook foods at high temperatures, you're forming what's called acrylamides on the food. And
Mm-hmm.
acrylamides is like a plastic like coating that covers the food and is highly carcinogenic, like kids growing up on French fries and potato chips.
Mm-hmm.
The prognosis for the life potential is not going to be as good as kids growing up on real, whole, healthy plant foods, whether lightly cooked or raw, but getting in as much raw as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
she didn't have any awareness of this. She has a daughter, and she it was like a light bulb went on for her.
Wow.
And she was like, wow, I have to start feeding my daughter all these wonderful foods. And so her daughter came along for the ride, not the husband, but the daughter. The daughter came along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of them made these changes. And they were both eating whole foods, plant based, not completely raw.
Mm-hmm.
I gave her a lot of cooked food recipes, but I gave her cooked food recipes that did not contain those acrylamides. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and she loved them. She was able to make the changes because she loved the meal plan and she found it really tasty. And she was able to do it during the week, but she wasn't able to do it on the weekend because she really found that socially it
Mm-hmm.
was important for her to be with her husband, to share what he was eating. So she continued eating some meat on the weekends. However, she significantly reduced the amount of meat, and it was only one time a day on those 2 days.
Oh wow.
So we're still talking primarily a plant based diet, primarily.
Mm-hmm.
So she made tremendous improvements. The swelling came down. She
Mm-hmm.
lost a significant amount of weight during just a few months. She lost like over 30 pounds. You could see it in her face.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you could see that just the total inflammation was significantly less. She told me that she was now sleeping at night for the first time in many years,
Wow.
that the insomnia was gone, that she had energy that she didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
And it saved her career because she could now be at school and continue as the wonderful administrator who everybody had loved. And it so this kind of coaching changes lives. It certainly changed her life. She gave me an excellent testimonial, which I have on my websites. And I have two websites, feelfabulouswithfood.com, which has my testimonials of my clients and also my course, my vegan coach certification course, which is for people who want to become vegan and raw food health coaches and just help me spread the word. Because more and more, our society is getting sicker and sicker from
Mm-hmm.
what we're eating, and we need to get out there and coach people worldwide.
Yeah.
So I can't do it alone. So I'm bringing a lot of people on board, and it's growing. The movement is growing. Just like that, you have this wonderful platform here on YouTube, and there's other vegans and raw vegans who are as passionate about it as we are. They're also growing and out there on social media and spreading this really valuable health message so that we can start to have healthy societies.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, do you think a plant-based or raw vegan diet is for everyone? How?
I
from your
do believe that a plant-based diet is for everyone.
Mhm.
The long-term research, longitudinal research, 20, 30 years long on 20,000 plus individuals, up to sometimes hundreds of thousands, backs up plant-based lifestyle, especially whole foods, because you can get into big trouble with these vegan diets that are loaded with processed junk food. A lot of
Mhm.
them have a huge amount of salt, and a lot of people go back to eating meat because vegan wasn't successful for them, because they're like basically living on processed food. And if we're
Mhm.
only eating processed food, we're not going to get adequate nutrition to sustain our health. And so we need to go whole foods, plant based. Not everybody wants to go 100% raw, and that's okay. I
Mhm.
usually take people from where they are in steps to where they want to go to get the results that they want while going towards a plant-based diet. Like I told you, this one woman, I didn't get her to be even vegetarian completely, but look at
Mhm.
how high she went in plant foods. That
Mhm.
was huge transformation. And I mean, look what happened to me and my family. I had amazing healing with plant foods. And some people who are suspect of plant foods, they need to start looking at some of the PubMed research, because the research is out there that number one, we don't need to be afraid of fruit. Fruit is
Mhm.
a natural whole food. It has
Mhm.
fiber. It digests slowly. It does not spike the blood sugar the way that processed food does.
Mhm.
So if you're eating fruit and it's got the fiber to digest slowly, that fiber prevents all those blood sugar spikes. Now, if you're eating or giving your kids those juice boxes that come from fruit originally, but there's no longer any fruit in there, that's
Mhm.
just pure sugar. Yes, that spikes the blood sugar.
Mhm.
That will definitely do it, but
Mhm.
not fruit. So we need to understand these things, and we also need to see the research out there. And if you look at research that shows that like eggs or meat are good for you, you want to look behind those research projects and see who's sponsoring them.
Yes.
Very often it'll be the egg industry or the dairy industry or the multi-billion dollar meat and livestock industry
Mhm.
sponsoring those studies to make the study look the way they want it to look. Let's look at real studies. Let's look at university studies.
Mhm.
Let's look at some of these studies that were done over long periods of time.
Mhm.
We're seeing very, very clear research. I do a lot of research, and there are some plant-based medical doctors who are out there doing this research, and we have quite a bit of it now. Um,
Mhm.
so it's not hard to find. And we also can see clearly, when we talk about good health and we talk about good digestion, it all stems from the gut. And what is the most important thing that the gut needs that I mentioned at the beginning? It's fiber.
Mhm.
The gut needs the fiber. And animal food, zero fiber, zero.
Mhm.
No fiber for proper digestion.
Mhm.
Processed packaged junk food, zero fiber for proper digestion.
Mhm.
Whole plant food, lots of fiber.
Yes.
So it speaks very clearly to what we need to build up a healthy gut microbiome so that we can have good health, so that all of our systems in our body are working, that we
Mhm.
have good circulation, our neurological system is working, our nervous system, our brain, our heart, every organ, every system of the body depends on a healthy gut, which depends on healthy whole plant food. And I believe in high raw or fully raw. because we want our food as intact as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the research showing that high cooking temperatures, that they destroy the nutrients in the food, so there is nutrient loss. And there is also this chemical compound called acrylamides that is formed on the foods when you're cooking at high temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why raw food speaks to me,
Mm-hmm.
and it speaks to you also. It speaks to
Yes.
everybody listening here,
Mm-hmm.
because we all want to have that health. We
Yes.
all want it, but we just don't realize how powerful it is
Oh
to
yes.
go to a whole plant food, high raw or fully raw lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So important to go there and to get that help that you need.
Yeah. Wow. That is good. That's good. I have a question here. What is hyperactivity? When you were speaking about the children, or the one of the little boy who was
Yes.
hyperactive.
So, hyperactivity is classified as not being able to focus, not staying with an activity, having difficulty transitioning to other activities. I do want to say that sometimes the word hyperactivity is made up. There are times that, like, a child is just a different learning style. Every
Mm-hmm.
child learns differently.
Mm-hmm.
A fully auditory learner at school will be like the kind of learner that the teachers want to see, but not every child is an auditory learner. There
Right.
are some children who are like hands-on project kinds of learners, like they're tactile. They
Mm-hmm.
need to touch and do all kinds of projects with their hands in order to really learn. There
Mm-hmm.
are some children who are not auditory learners, they're visual learners. So
Mm-hmm.
they learn better through pictures and reading. Um, there's so many different kinds of learners. And
Yes.
there are books just on this topic. So sometimes hyperactivity doesn't make any sense. But
Mm-hmm.
there are some children who really are hyperactivity, who do show hyperactivity even, outside of school, who just, they get, their nervous systems get very revved up. They can't calm easily. They have troubles focusing, interacting, poor brain focus, that mental clarity is not there. These are the kinds of things that parents describe to me. And
Mm-hmm.
like I said, in this situation with this one parent, where she came to me wanting to focus on diet and lifestyle for her child and see if that could help, it helped in just a couple of months. I mean, not only helped, but it was basically out the window.
Wow.
This child was so different.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the first couple of weeks, she was seeing improvement, that he was focusing, that he was making eye contact with her, that he was even concentrating more on his schoolwork, that he was easier to reason with, that he had just completely calmed down. Even some of the aggression that he had shown had vanished.
Wow.
So yeah, and this happens not only in children but also in adults.
Yes. That is
I've
so
seen this
true.
in adults as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
That was.
It's all great stuff. That's why it keeps me so involved with it all these years,
Mm-hmm.
and really excited about the work that I do,
Mm-hmm.
and also excited to see others out there like you, Bernice, um, having this wonderful YouTube channel and getting the word out. So thank you
Thank
for the
you.
work that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. For someone who wants to start eating raw vegan or plant based, diet, how would you, uh, what advice could you give them to get started?
So I would say get as much information as you can.
Hmm.
Watching YouTube videos that talk about the benefits of raw food and other social media. I like YouTube because you can just sit and just watch videos, and they're always going to be there. Instagram is good too. On Instagram, I am super healthy raw.
Hmm.
And I have a YouTube channel as well. My YouTube channel is Feel Fabulous with Food.
Hmm.
And Feel Fabulous with Food is also the website that I had mentioned that has my vegan coach certification there that you can read about, and also has my vegan and raw vegan health coaching.
Yeah.
That's a way to get in touch with me. You can also, if you have any questions, you can always get in touch with me by email at Karen, Karen, at feelfabulouswithfood.com. And then I have my other website, which is on children and raising healthy plant powered children. It's called superhealthychildren.com. And that website, Super Healthy Children, has my books. So, my book, Creating Healthy Children, which Bernice showed you earlier, is on that site. My book on autism, my recipe ebook, there's Creating Healthy Children. That's a classic.
Hmm.
I highly recommend if you don't have Creating Healthy Children, that's a great place to start. Even if you're an adult, it has tremendous amount of information. It's for the whole family,
Hmm.
um, and has really everything that you need to know to raise healthy people and to be a healthy person.
Yes. Well,
Yeah, and so those are the best ways to get in touch with me. But I would also, highly recommend um, becoming parts of groups. There are free Facebook groups, raw vegan Facebook groups. I have a free Facebook group called Plant Foods Weight Loss, Hormonal and Gut Health. So it's for improved hormones and gut health and even getting to ideal weight. And I do Facebook Lives in there, answer questions, and so lots of free information. So
mhm,
that's on Facebook, and again, it's Plant Foods Weight Loss, Hormonal, and Gut Health. If and that is kind of a long word for it. So if you're interested, you can also go just to my page, my profile page, Karen Ranzi. And on Karen Ranzi, you'll see at the left in my bio, you'll see the link to my free Facebook group. And that's a great way to connect with me and my community and get lots of free info. I'll put recipes in there. Um,
mhm.
I do talks and give free information in there.
Okay. I apologize. I normally put link trees or links in the description, but I'll go back and do it so they can go and find you very easily. Um, I
Yeah,
apologize. I was just checking. I'm like, I didn't put her link tree. Oh my God. But I
yeah.
will put it in the description on the on this video.
Right,
So
and I
you
think it's linktree.com/. Karen A. Ranzi, I think. I can send it to you as well.
okay. I went to let me see. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to make a copy and just put it on.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So that's what I normally do. I've been so busy. So busy, but everything is here. I'm gonna link it on this video.
Great. Thank you, Bernice. I appreciate you.
I
Um,
appreciate you.
Yeah, and also I have, for anybody who is interested, I have a women's health club, which is women aspiring to vegan and raw vegan lifestyle.
Mhm.
And it's like a whole program of resources, meal plans, recipes, weekly coaching classes with me, and it has a free 7-day trial to that program. So if anybody is interested in that, that's something that somebody could contact me and I could send the link for the free trial.
Okay.
And that's women. That's all women, because I also work a lot with women with hormonal and gut health challenges, and also those who just really want to stay healthy and happy during the years.
Mhm.
Because that's really what this is all about. That's why vegan, whole food vegan, and raw food lifestyles are exploding and getting
Mhm.
much more notice than when I started in the 90s. In the 90s, there were very, very few people doing it. I mean, I'm basically a pioneer.
Mhm.
I'm, vegan now for 34 years and raw vegan 29 years. And I would never go back.
I know that's right. Yes, I agree. Concur. Wow. Any last remarks that you would have to share with us?
I would just say that for anyone who is experiencing any health challenges, just know that you don't need to be talked into taking life threatening drugs that have side effects,
Mhm.
that our body is extremely intelligent. Our body wants to be healthy, our body wants to heal. And when
Mhm.
given the right situation, the right climate, anything is possible.
Mhm.
I've worked with people with stage 3 and 4 cancers who have turned around. I've seen children with autism be able to turn around. I know people a lot of times hear me say this and they're going, I can't believe that. Well, take a look at some of my testimonials at feelfabulouswithfood.com and superhealthychildren.com. And you'll see some stories that you might think are miraculous, but it's just the body wanting to get back to a place of health.
Mhm.
And if you have any challenges that you're concerned about, just know that you can do it too.
Yes.
I'd like to just leave on that last note that it's not just certain people who can get healthy again. Anybody, everybody can.
Yes. I agree. Okay, we're gonna end here, and I hope you can come back because I feel like it was just a tip of the wisdom that you have here. But I would
Thank
love
you so
to
much,
get
Bernice. It was awesome to be here, and I so appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much,
Thank
and
you. Thank
I'll look
you.
forward to seeing you again. And thank you to anybody who joined us.
Yes. Thank you guys for watching. 1,000 roses to you, and love yourself first. Why? Because you're worth it. Take care.